Africa's fastest man just got beaten badly by Noah Lyles, finishing a distant 8th while the American cruised away to victory. So when Ferdinand Omanyala finally broke his silence about that race, everyone expected a long list of excuses. Instead, the Kenyan said something that completely flips this rivalry on its head. And once you hear the truth he told about Noah Lyles, you will never look at that Rome defeat the same way again. On the 4th of June, the sprinting world gathered in Rome for the Golden Gala, one of the biggest and loudest nights on the entire Diamond League calendar. Ferdinand Omanyala walked onto that track as the fastest man in the field on paper, the proud African record holder with a personal best of 9.77 seconds. By every measurement that mattered, he had earned the right to believe he could beat anyone lined up beside him. But the race that followed was genuinely painful to watch for every Kenyan fan. When the gun cracked, Omanyala simply was not there. He labored across the line in a sluggish 10.11 seconds, finishing a distant 8th, while Noah Lyles exploded away from the field to win comfortably in 9.88 seconds. Cameroon's Emmanuel Asay snatched second place in 9.94, and Botswana's Letsile Tebogo grabbed third in 9.95. For a sprinter who had spent the whole season terrorizing the clock, it looked like a sudden and total collapse, and this is exactly where the story takes its first real turn. When the cameras finally found Omanyala after the race, he did not hide, and he did not bury himself in vague excuses. He told the plain truth about what had gone wrong, and in doing so, he sent an unmistakable message straight at Noah Lyles. The problem, he calmly explained, was never the American's blistering speed. The problem was his own start. "I am glad we are going to do a rematch in Paris," Omanyala said, "because in Rome I had hitches at the blocks and did not really come out at 100%. Read that sentence again slowly. He is not telling the world that Lyles was untouchable. He is telling the world that nobody has actually seen the real Omanyala yet, and that the stumbling, misfiring runner who lost in Rome was a faint shadow of the sprinter he knows he truly is. To a fierce champion like Lyles, that is not a soft excuse at all. That is a direct warning. But here is the single detail that turns this entire rivalry completely upside down. Despite that ugly 8th place finish in Rome, Ferdinand Omanyala is not the one chasing Noah Lyles in the bigger picture. He is the one leading it. As things stand right now, Omanyala sits proudly on top of the Diamond League 100-meter standings with 16 points, ahead of South Africa's Gift Lietlela on 15 points and the American Kenneth Bednarek on 11. Noah Lyles, the very man who beat him so convincingly on that Roman night, is nowhere near the top of that table. So while the highlight reels keep showing Lyles winning one cold battle in Italy, the long, grinding, season-long war is being led by the Kenyan. Omanyala himself happily admitted that topping the entire series has already sailed beyond what he set out to achieve this year. "This season for me was a season of restoration and just getting back to the top," he said, "but honestly, I am glad we are at the top." And that single word, restoration, explains absolutely everything about his 2026 campaign. This has been the season where Omanyala clawed and fought his way back to the very front of world sprinting. He has already dipped under 10 seconds 5 separate times this year, a level of brutal consistency that most sprinters can only dream about. He opened his campaign with a blazing 9.98 at the Addis Ababa Grand Prix, then dropped a rapid 9.95 at the Botswana Grand Prix, and added a sharp 9.96 at the Kip Keino Classic on his own home soil in Kenya. On the Diamond League circuit itself, he stormed to a famous victory in Xiamen in 9.94 seconds, one of only a small handful of Diamond League wins in his entire career, and then backed it up with 9.98 in Shanghai. This is clearly not a man in decline. This is a man patiently rebuilding himself into a genuine threat to every single big name in the sport, Noah Lyles very much included. To really understand why this rematch matters so much, you have to understand the history between these two men. Omanyala and Lyles have shared a start line many times over the years, and the Kenyan knows better than almost anyone just how hard the American is to beat once he gets rolling in those final 40 meters. Lyles is the Olympic champion and the world 200 meters king, a sprinter built for the back half of a race, while Omanyala is famous for his terrifying acceleration out of the blocks. On his very best day, The Kenyan is gone early and dares the rest of the world to chase him down. That is precisely why his honesty about Rome carries such weight. He is openly admitting that the one weapon that makes him dangerous, that explosive start, is the exact thing that failed him in Italy. Fix that single flaw, and the whole equation between these two changes overnight. Of course, the long road back has not been perfectly smooth, and Omanyala himself would be the first person to admit it. Just days before turning his full attention to Paris, he lined up at the FBK Games in Hengelo in the Netherlands and could only manage a disappointing 5th place in 10.13, beaten by South Africa's Akani Simbine, who took the win in 10.08. That stumble, arriving so soon after the Rome disaster, raised fresh and uncomfortable questions about whether he could rediscover his rhythm at exactly the right moment. But then came the answer his fans had been desperately waiting for. Back home at the Kenyan National Championships, which also doubled as the official trials for the Commonwealth Games, Omanyala suddenly looked sharp, fluid, and hungry all over again. He defended his national title in a crisp 10.00 seconds, finishing comfortably clear of Meshak Babu in 10.20 and the former national record holder Mark Otieno in 10.32. Now the whole stage shifts to Paris, and the field waiting there for him is absolutely brutal. The Paris 100 meters lines Omanyala up against Eseme, Simbine, Britain's Jeremiah Azu, Italy's former Olympic champion Marcel Jacobs, and the dangerous Americans Jordan Anthony and Trayvon Bromell. And then, of course, there is Noah Lyles himself, arriving in absolutely frightening form. Just days ago at the Ostrava Golden Spike meeting, Lyles smashed the world 150 meters record, blazing to a stunning 14.67 seconds, and erasing previous mark of 14.92 set by Jamaica's Keishane Thompson. The Olympic champion is flying, his confidence is sky high, and he will line up in Paris as the one man that everybody else genuinely fears. For Ferdinand Omanyala, beating a Lyles in this kind of devastating shape would be the single loudest statement of his entire restoration season. The kind of win that silences every doubter in one explosive 10-second burst. And yet, as enormous as the Paris showdown feels, it is not even the biggest prize sitting on Omanyala's mind. Looming large on the horizon is the 2026 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, and that is where his deepest and most personal ambition truly lives. Back in 2022, Omanyala won precious Commonwealth gold in Birmingham, becoming only the second Kenyan in history to ever claim a Commonwealth sprint title, following the legendary Serafino Antau, who triumphed all the way back in 1962. Now he wants to do something that absolutely nobody has done before him, defend that 100 meters crown and win it for a second time. What gives him goosebumps is a strange and beautiful little coincidence. The 10.00 he ran at this year's trials is the exact same time he ran at the trials just before his golden run in Birmingham. I do not believe in coincidences, but I believe in history, Omanyala said. You never know. The same thing might happen at the Commonwealth Games. I want to be the first person to win it twice, so that is the history I am chasing. There is also something much bigger riding on these next 2 months than one man's pride. Ferdinand Omanyala is not just a Kenyan sprinter, he is the fastest man the African continent has ever produced. And for years, he has carried the weight of an entire region's hopes on the global sprinting stage. Every time he steps onto a Diamond League track against the very best from America, Jamaica, and Europe, he is quietly proving that a sprinter from Kenya, a country famous for its distance runners, can stand toe-to-toe with the planet's elite over 100 meters.